Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise this evening to speak on behalf of many small businesses across Tasmania, in both the capital city and in regional Tasmania, who have been and for many continue to struggle. I note and acknowledge today that the Tasmanian Government, under the direction of a new minister, has announced round 3 of the COVID-19 Business Impact Support Program. And personally, with the installing of a new minister, I felt hopeful. I expected change. I thought that for now there would be a moment that this government would reflect on the feedback that they had been provided so clearly from small businesses across Tasmania and do something different. Because what we know is that this out-of-touch government that has lost connection, particularly to small businesses in region and rural Tasmania, are just not getting it right. What we've seen today is pretty much more of the same. What we've seen today is round 3, which means they had to go first, then they followed it with a bit more, and now it's a bit more, which is drip feeding to small business owners and workers in those small businesses that needed support when the borders opened. We know that we asked so many questions prior to the borders opening. Was the government ready? We know that for the 39,000 small businesses across Tasmania that employ 100,000 Tasmanians, they expected and needed, their livelihoods depended on the government being ready. And they assured everybody, every Tasmanian, that they were. And if they were, they would have predicted the impact on small businesses and they would have been ready to provide the support that would actually make a difference. But no, only acting under pressure, which is a hallmark of this government, only acting under pressure, did they provide an insulting amount of money that was too complicated and overwhelming for our small businesses who have been fatigued by the challenges of the last 2 years to actually even apply. People providing feedback to say, for the small amount of money, it just wasn't worth the effort when we've got so much to focus on right now to trade through this really tricky time. We've heard directly Tasmanian Labor have done the work, led by Rebecca White, Labor's economic team, and every member of every electorate across Tasmania, united and committed to hearing from, understanding and supporting small businesses. We have heard the impact that some small businesses in a week lost $150,000, some losing continuously over weeks, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 for a period of time over that December and January period in particular. What does $1,000 do? I know, and I know personally from my own experiences in small business, that any amount of money when times are tough, you receive gratefully. But when the magnitude of the impact that you have been burdened by the government to carry on behalf of all Tasmanians to continue to trade and provide often really essential services in regional Tasmania is required of you when the government doesn't get it right, it's an insult. And we heard that. People were disappointed. They were saddened. They were hurt and angry by the lack of preparedness. So then under pressure they put out a round 2 and they doubled the number but made no changes really that you could count on structurally. And again now, and I hesitate to say this because I want to encourage the new minister to actually, and she has committed, I've heard her say, and I trust that she follows through, that she will commit to engaging with and hearing from small businesses and do things differently because we know it's needed. But it pretty much, round 3, the same type of support is offered. Now, the work that Tasmanian Labor did responded particularly to the needs of small businesses across Tasmania. We know that payroll support was really important to maintain that support for the business, for them to continue to deliver their services and for workers to maintain their hours, their jobs and their shifts. We know that cash flow is king. Cash flow support was really important. Support with overheads for something that the government can really simply influence by rebating fixed costs. We know that, and we've heard it actually just this week, that in some areas it's okay to extend support for payroll tax release. relief? Well, we have suggested that for many of these small businesses, and if you've been in small business, you know, if week by week you're struggling, if it's hard to make ends meet at the end of the week, and then you get a big bill that comes, you know, perhaps quarterly through the year, and you haven't been able to squirrel away your funds to be able to pay that, we have had businesses in tears with us about the worry that they carry, not just for themselves and their families and their livelihoods, but when you employ people, they become your family. Their families become your family, and the burden of that responsibility keeps you awake at night. So when that payroll tax bill comes through, where the business is so substantial that it pays payroll tax, it is making that contribution to the community, we've had people in tears worrying how they're going to meet that commitment. We made recommendations not only for the businesses but also for workers. We also made recommendations about supporting confidence and stimulus in the community. We call on the government, look at the work that we have done, implement support that actually makes a difference for small business. Because if you actually respect them, as you say you do, you will do the work. You will get back in touch. You will show leadership. You will actually get the basics right, because we all know that small business is the engine of the economy, but it can only start and kick and thrive if it's supported and respected. Today has been a disappointment. It's more of the same. I was hopeful, I expected more, and I expected better. And the small businesses of Tasmania needed better. It's time now that this business gets back in touch, gets out of the bubble of the capital city, back out into the regions, back out into rural Tasmania, and connects with the needs of small business.